morning, everybody. Welcome to the PT on Ice Daily Show. It is the best day of the week here on the PT on Ice Daily Show. It is Fitness Athlete Friday. I'm excited to talk to you today as your host, Dr. Zach Long. So I'm one of the lead faculty members inside of our Clinical Management of the Fitness Athlete Division, teaching our Advanced Concepts course that is online and our live course that we do across the country on weekends alongside Mitch Babcock for both of those two courses. So today we're going to be discussing finding a good CrossFit gym. What are the characteristics and things that we believe are important when you're trying to find a gym for yourself to attend or for your patients to go to if they ask you questions about that. And this is a conversation I've had a lot of recently. We get this question all the time in our courses, but I've had it a lot recently because four local CrossFit gyms have decided to close over the last 2 months in the Charlotte area. These are 4 of the 5 closest gyms to us due to rising real estate prices. They essentially can't keep open, or their building has been sold, or they couldn't, they own the building and they wanted to lease it out because they were going to make more money by leasing it out. So it's been a really interesting scene in the CrossFit space here in Charlotte, North Carolina over the last few months. So this conversation's happened a lot. Before we dive into those characteristics that we believe really make a good CrossFit gym, let's talk about what upcoming courses we have here at ICE. And if you're trying to get in here at the end of the year, you don't have a whole lot of opportunities next. I think we have about 4 courses going on this weekend. I'll be doing Fitness Athlete in Chicago, Illinois. But after this weekend, we only have 2 more courses in terms of live courses available. And that is November 20th and 21st in Parker, Colorado, so Denver. We have our Extremity Management course coming out. And then December 6th, Clinical Management of the Fitness Athlete Essential Foundations, that online course will begin on December 6th. But those are kind of your last 2 chances after this weekend to catch ICE in 2021. So we'll kick off 2022 with a couple courses early on in the year. January 8th and 9th in Fenton, Michigan. We'll do Modern Management of the Older Adult, and the following weekend, Modern Management Older Adult will also be going on in Hendersonville, Tennessee. So let's jump into today's topic. What are the characteristics that we think are important when we're trying to identify if a CrossFit gym is good, or to identify what gym might be better suited for certain individuals? So I'd say the first thing is that we have coaching is the first thing that we have to look at. So we have, in terms of coaching, we have the need to identify if we have coaches that are coaches and cheerleaders. So I want to see both of those. What I want to see is that the coaches take their time, they're going around and they're cheering on different members during the workout, encouraging people to continue working hard. But what I see very commonly is gyms tend to become very focused instead on just the cheerleading portion and not on coaching as much. So they should be going around and cheering people on, but they should also be going around and talking to people about their technique, slowing them down, giving them cues during the workout. So we want people that are coaches that are both coaches and cheerleaders, and not just cheerleaders. Beyond that, we want to see professional coaches. What do I mean by professional coaches? That doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be a full-time coach coaching 30 plus hours a week, but I want to see people that are invested in improving their skill set at coaching CrossFit. So I want to see people that have not only gotten their CrossFit level 1, but they've gone on to get their level 2, or they've gone on to take specialty courses such as the Olympic lifting or gymnastics courses that you can find to learn to supplement that. I want to see coaches that are just trying to improve their skill set. So one great example of that is, unfortunately, one of the gyms that just closed in our area was called Reebok CrossFit Charlotte. I walked in there one Saturday morning and I was going to do some filming. So they were just at the very end of their Saturday morning classes, and they had one coach leading the class and all the other coaches were sitting in the bleachers on the side of the gym, and they were watching that coach lead the class. They were taking notes on that individual and what they were doing well, what they could work on to improve themselves. So that was a gym that was really bought into how do we improve the skill set of our coaches. So that was really cool to see, really good example of trying to be highly professional coaches. Past coaching, a couple other things that I want to see. Number one, class size. So typically we want to see class sizes to be smaller here, and that's kind of a bit of a balance, because if they get too small, then the gyms aren't making any money. But typically what we see in research is that class size is highly related to injury rates. When class sizes are smaller, coaches have more time with each member. They can make sure members are doing the right scaled versions of the workout for where that individual certainly is. So typically you want to see that be about 15-1, or maybe a little bit better than that. When we get to classes that are 20, 25 to 1 coach, that tends to be a little bit of a negative towards that gym. They're not going to be able to do as much detailed coaching of people during the class. Next thing I want to look at is programming for CrossFit. And this is one that is really, really interesting, because if you look at most CrossFit gyms, they typically follow like what we call a strength biased programming perspective. So everyday individuals come in, they're doing a strength or a skill piece, and they're doing a conditioning piece every single day of the week. And that's actually fairly different from what CrossFit headquarters promotes. CrossFit headquarters is going to say that we typically are going to focus on one of these two variables. Like you go in and you deadlift 5x5 at 75 to 80% of your 1 rep max. You go in and you do a workout like Fran. Like you only do one piece. And what doing that one piece does is it lets those individuals in the class maintain really, really high intensity in that workout, because the volume's lower. And CrossFit believes very strongly that it is the intensity that drives adaptations. When you put two of those things together, you cannot go 100% on both of those, and so your intensity is going to naturally drop. You're also now going to be asking significantly more of the coaches in terms of the time frame of that hour-long class. So their ability to work through proper warm-ups and their ability to properly scale and talk to people gets reduced, because they just simply don't have as much time in that hour. So we don't want to see strength biased programming for most gyms. I think most people are going to actually respond better long term when they're not doing strength biased programming, because they're going to constantly be doing the right scaled version of that workout for where they're at. They're going to be able to push intensity, etc. We also want to see that things are constantly varied. So a lot of times what we'll see is gyms that really get hooked on, the classic CrossFit style workouts, those couplets, those triplets, those chippers, and those things that really in those 8 to 12 minute time domains, and they typically end up kind of getting stuck in this rut where the vast majority of their workouts are there, and they tend to ignore things that are outside of that. So they won't do things like programming a 5K, which I fully understand is not something that a lot of CrossFit gym members want to do. But if you look at CrossFit.com's programming, the most popular written workout of the day is to run a 5K. So I think it's important for us to recognize that, but we want to see things that are actually constantly varied in gyms that aren't stuck in a rut of doing the same things over and over. And the last thing I'd say in terms of programming is a great way, if you're not really familiar with CrossFit programming, a great way to know if the programming at a gym is good or not is to actually see if the coaches take the class. So for example, at a gym here in Charlotte, none of the coaches take the class. And that to me is a giant red flag that there's something wrong with the programming if the coaches of that gym don't believe that the programming is good enough to push their performance forward. Now, maybe the coaches are more advanced, and so maybe they do some supplemental work on top of that. So for instance, at CrossFit Fitton, where Mitch coaches, they follow CrossFit Mayhem's programming, their affiliate programming, and that typically is not very strength biased. So Mitch, as a very high level CrossFitter, does that programming, but he also does additional supplemental stuff on the side. But he believes enough in the foundational programming that that's a big piece of his training. And I think that's what we want to see more of in gyms. Next thing we'll look at is just the general class schedule of that hour that the workout is scheduled for. Like, do the coaches have the time to do a proper warm-up? Do they lead a proper warm-up? Some gyms won't. Some gyms will just start 10 minutes after doing the workout and let individuals warm up on their own. I prefer to see a coach-led warm-up. Do the coaches review the points of performance of the lift? Or do they just say, hey, today we're deadlifting, go get after it? I want to see them talk through. Where should people's stance be? What should they be doing with their chest? What should they do with their midline? How do they lift the bar up and down off the ground? Let's review those points of performance every day. Do they do a specific warm-up? So after they spend 5 or 10 minutes doing a general warm-up, getting the heart rate up, moving, do they then get into how do we start getting ready for X, Y, and Z exercises that are coming up? After that specific warm-up, I want to see, do they actually have time for coaching? So if a lot of gyms are following strength bias programming, where they're doing a strength piece that takes 20 minutes, a 10 to 15 minute warm up, a conditioning piece that's 20 minutes, like that eats up the entire hour of class time. And so if that's the way the class is programmed and scheduled, there's not going to be actually any time for the coaches to actually coach the movements that are showing up in that day's workout. So really pay attention to the class schedule. The final two things are a little quicker. Number one, cleanliness. I think that's something that's important. I think gyms should be cleaned. I don't think I need to explain that one too much. But it's surprising how often we go into gyms that are a little behind on that. And then the final thing is the community. Now, every gym typically has a pretty strong community, a group of people that love working out there, and what that is. What I mean when I say community is a community that matches your needs or the needs of your patients. So for example, in Charlotte, a bigger city, we have a lot of CrossFit gyms. So it's important for me to understand what that general community is like in my area. For example, Grit House CrossFit is a very competitive CrossFit gym. That's probably not a gym that I'm going to send somebody that is not super far into their fitness journey, that just wants to start to get active. If I send them there, they're doing a lot more advanced workouts, a lot more volume, a lot more intensity in it. That's going to be a mismatch in that community. I might find individuals that want to work out with people around their same age range or similar interests, and different CrossFit gyms will have different levels of community, different types of their community. And I think identifying that for your patients is important as well. So I hope that helps you out in terms of finding a good CrossFit gym. As always, look forward to seeing you on the road. Hope y'all have a great Friday and a great weekend.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.